All right, so we're joined for our first semester, our first speaker of the semester here in January 26th by Marcus Boyd. Thank you so much for taking some time for us today. I've got a room full here of all young men at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, my good friend April Majors over at Ridgeland High School, and the Academic Options Center. So thank you so much for taking some time for us today to share your unbelievable journey that you've turned into a platform to inspire young people all over the world.
Well, thank you, to the incredible teacher that you are, to your incredible students, to your incredible high school, to all the high schools in Madison County. And, I really am honored for this opportunity.
Now, just we obviously want to talk about all the things that you do now and how you inspire so many young people. But just give us a little background because it is absolutely incredible the things that you overcame as a child to get to where you are now.
Well, I was born with autism. I was nonverbal until I was almost 14 years old. I started speaking at a 2-year-old's level at the age of almost 14. So how a 14-year-old maneuvers itself, I was not maneuvering myself. I was maneuvering myself at a 2-year-old's level at the age of almost 14. I did not start speaking like I do now till I was almost 18. 11 different doctors in 2 different states said that I was basically a walking vegetable. I never speak. I never talk. I never get educated. I will always have to have a caregiver for the rest of my life. I will never be able to do the same things as normal children, well, excuse me, as children at my age range at that time was able to do. And, my grandmother, she was like 4'9", 4'10", and she carried around this big old pocketbook and she had holy oil in there. I'm old school, showing my age. So, when she got kicked out of many hospitals for throwing holy oil on doctors and speaking in tongues. They thought they was looking at a scene of Exorcist or the Poltergeist or something like that because, she just didn't believe what the doctors were saying. She believed in her higher doctor. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the thing was, I was counted out. My mom has 22 children. So
Ooh.
out of 22 kids, yes, we got like 2 African tribes. But out of 22 kids, you know, it was like, Marcus he's not going to do anything. And then on top of that, when you 4 years old and your mom go to family court and tell the judge that he's too retarded to be my son, he's a mistake. I don't want him. I don't want nothing to do with him. He's causing problems in my marriage. Take Marcus out of the home because his father don't beat the rest of the kids. His father just abused him. You understand what I'm saying? So it was destined for me not to do anything, to be on medications, to be in therapy, to be counted out because autism was the biggest thing that nobody at that time knew how to deal with, knew how to functionalize with. You understand what I'm saying? It was like, oh, he's nonverbal. He's having sensory issues. He's throwing stuff. He's rocking. He's slobbing on himself. He's using the bathroom on himself. So let's just put him in a corner, put a TV on, give him a coloring book and some crayons, and tell people that he is moving forward with his IEP.
Wow. So obviously, despite that trauma and
Mm-hmm.
despite like you said, not really speaking out on an adult level until you were 18 years old, you've turned that into a platform. And you've used that to inspire numerous people. You've been on TV, you've been on the internet, you've been all over the world, all over the country speaking. So, like you said, everybody here, and nobody is exempt. Everybody here is going to have to deal with things that are hard growing up. People have to deal with things that aren't fair. I always say nobody chooses who their parents are. Nobody chooses where they're born. Nobody chooses the talents they have. Nobody chooses the color of their skin. But there are so many things that you can control when it comes to learning how to speak. And look, no, I got a lot of talent in this room, but nobody in this room has had to deal with what you had to deal with on a medical level, but you're still able to speak in front of crowds. You're able to be confident when you speak. And that's what sets people apart when it comes to making themselves known in business, making themselves known in the college world. So, as these young men they're going through high school and they're starting to learn this stuff. Why is that so important to learn when it comes to being a great communicator?
Is extremely important because what we have to understand is that the amazing teacher that you have right in front of you is preparing you and gearing you for bigger opportunities. It's not just McDonald's, Long John Silver's, Burger King, or Arby's. It's it's Fortune 500 companies. It's you building your own Fortune 500 company. It's you understanding structure. It's you understanding leadership, direction, guidance, and obedience regardless of where you choose to go in life. Those 3 to 4 things are going to be wherever you go. Is leadership, guidance, obedience, structure. You have to have these type of qualities, whether you choose to work for somebody else or you choose to work for yourself. And as you prepare to go into this world, you have to have the tools so you can be able to push past your own infinity.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that you just talked about some of the things you faced. It's okay to admit that you have obstacles. A lot of things have changed over the last decades. These colleges that these kids are looking at, every college in the state of Mississippi, every community college in the state of Mississippi, most companies are going to provide free mental health services. They can help you work through some of these things. There are most of these colleges now are going to have people that can help you with your speech writing, that can help you with your talking, to help you do business better. So why is it important to understand that? Look, you may you may say you just said that you have autism, but that doesn't mean that you are handicapped. It doesn't mean that you are not just as capable, and it doesn't mean that you're not intelligent. So even if somebody is dealing with something similar, or even if they're not, why is it so important to reach out to people that are there to help and then talk through that to make yourself more successful?
What you don't want to do is bottle it in. What you don't want to do is what I did because as a child I was going through extreme and horrific abuse at home. So I was going through therapy, but imagine me not being able to speak, going through abuse and going through speech therapy at the same time and going through regular therapy at the same time. I couldn't verbalize what I was going through at all because I was nonverbal. So it's important that if you're going through anything, to speak out. Yes, we come from a society of don't tell nothing, don't ask nothing, nobody seen nothing, or whatever. But personally, for yourself, if you're battling with something that you cannot deal with, or you feel like that it's too much for you to do alone, please speak out and get help. There's nothing wrong with that. You still gonna be drippy and fly, and you still gonna be swagged out by the time you finish getting help for yourself. You understand what I'm saying? But the thing is, you want to be here until you 80, 90 to 100 years old. So don't allow mental health or your mental health to take you out of here as I almost did.
Yeah, and I always say it is the ultimate equalizer, and I'm glad the stigma has started to change because for decades we've heard everybody in and out of the black community has said a lot of the older generation in the black community said, well, black people don't get depressed, black people don't kill themselves, black people don't face mental health obstacles, and that is just 100% false. Mental health is the ultimate equalizer for everybody. And like we said, it doesn't mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean you need to be committed. It doesn't mean that you are sick, but it's just a way for your life to transform to the trauma that you face. Because look, 99.99% of trauma is things that are not your fault, but you can find ways to work around that and become extremely successful.
At the time when I was growing up, I was dealing with again horrific abuse at home and foster homes. I was in and out of group homes, mental institutions, and stuff of that nature. Electrical shock therapies, medications, and everything else that I was dealing with at a young age. But again, I'm up here, trying to find outlets and ways to deal with this pain that I'm dealing with. And again, for me, it was much harder because I didn't have an outlet. I didn't have a therapist. I didn't have somebody I can reach out to. I come from a spiritual background. My grandma said it was nothing but Jesus. You understand what I'm saying? Holy, holy God. That's it. You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you had to take it to Jesus. Whether you can talk, mumble, or whatever. That was my grandmother's standards. So it was not no, oh, Let's go to a therapist. Let's go to a guidance counselor. Let's go to somebody that can really try to, back then they call them a peer help. I mean, a peer specialist. I had a behavior aid. You understand what I'm saying? So we couldn't go to those type of people to deal with my type of behavior. So again, if anybody in your classroom or anybody who may listen to this in the future is dealing with any type of situation, don't feel like it's gonna be like you're gonna be lame or something just because you're trying to get some help for yourself. Get that help. Because when I tried to commit suicide multiple times, and God still has me here because I was unable to get the help that I thought I needed.
Yeah, and again, for all of our community colleges, all of our universities have free mental health services for college students. We have people here in the schools that'll help. And then if anybody's ever in crisis, 988 is that number to call 24 hours a day, and they can point you to those resources. Because look, a real thing is, well, I don't know how to pay for this. I don't know how to get there. There's never been a better time to ask for that help. Now, one thing I also want to talk about is for people that may be unfamiliar with how to understand autism, because you hear a lot of things. Well, it's not that I'm afraid of them. I just don't know how to approach them. I don't know what's going to upset them. I don't know. I don't want to cause them to. I don't want to cause them to be uncomfortable. But you've been very open about it and say, look, here's who I am. Here's what you can expect. So if somebody, and I'd be willing to bet everybody is going to eventually work with somebody or be around somebody that has autism. What do they need to understand about how to approach that person and how to deal with that person?
Well, everybody with autism is different, so I can give you what will work for me, but it may not work for the next individual.
Yeah.
Autism is different per person, but for me, you know, I was it's just give us a chance. Number one, we're just like everybody else. We have every opportunity to want to learn from people, want to love on people, want to be kind and nice to people, and stuff of that nature. Yes, we get in our modes. Yes, we may have a situation to where we may be angry or whatever, because everybody gets angry. Everybody has an attitude or whatever. But the thing is, we have to stop crippling us before you meet us. That's number one. Stop crippling us before you meet us. Number two, allow us to be able to make mistakes the same way you make them. Our
There you go.
mistakes may be our mistakes may be a little bit different from yours. And our mistakes may be more constant than yours. But at the end of the day, that's where love, patience, understanding, and guidance come in. Be able to show us what we need to do. Don't do it for us. Don't handicap us in doing it. Allow us to be able
There you
to
go.
grow in the process. Because autism is just a title like bipolar, depression, schizophrenia. Those are titles. That don't make you who you are. That's just a part of your design.
Yeah, it may be what you are, but it's not who you are. It's such a great way to describe it. I'm glad you said that. Now, they're starting to hand me some questions, and we've got some good ones, and we'll get to them. But one thing I want to talk about before we did that is, you're somebody that's obviously become extremely successful. And these conversations were not able to be had when we were coming up. But why is it so important for these young men that are here with me now to take education seriously? Because I told them when they were in ninth grade, they're all in 10th and 11th and 12th grade now, that taking education seriously is what opens the door for you. If you can take education seriously, people take you seriously. That makes you a great communicator, and that makes you a successful person after high school. So why is it so important to take the education part seriously to lead to other things being great for you?
Because number one, if you grew up in a poverty type of situation, if mom had you on free lunch, if you was, getting help from the church, or you had to go to a welfare line, or you was in a poverty type of situation, you want to help mom, you want to help dad and grandma get out of that to have a better life. What you don't want to do is not get educated. What you don't want to do is not get the proper tools that you need so you can go to a university, so you can go to a college, so you can have a really good paying job that's going to make you a 5, 6, maybe 7 figures a year type of salary. At the end of the day, Here's what you get when you don't get educated. You can't even get McDonald's no more. Take McDonald's off the table because McDonald's is not going to hire you without a high school diploma. So that's done. You understand what I'm saying? Now that AI exists, you're really going to have it harder. Back in my day, if you didn't have a GED or high school diploma, you couldn't get anything. So basically, you're going to have two words, homeless or jail. Okay? So if you don't like being in the cold 24/7, if you want to have a roof over your head, please understand that we just not saying this because we want to sound like we want to get on you or something like that. Trust me, I didn't listen either. And guess what it got me? Homelessness, and I was dealing with some other stuff that nobody needs to deal with because I didn't want to get educated. I had to go back to school to get educated. I had to get a GED, which then I had to go to Ashford University to get a bachelor's in journalism and communications.
Wow.
Understand something. I'm not telling you this stuff because I want to be old. I want to be almost 43 years old and be like, yeah, just go to school. No, I didn't go to school. And what it got me was nothing. So I'm telling you, don't go that GPS route. Go to school. Get educated. Get all the free education you can get. Get all the free knowledge you can get. Because now y'all facing and you're dealing with AI. And AI is taking jobs. AI is taking companies and everything else. So you want to be smarter than this robot that's about to take over.
Yeah, and those skills that are going to be needed for that are going to change. So it's different from when we were coming up, where um, the jobs may still be there, but those skills are going to be completely different. And it's important to stay on top of that and know what's marketable and try to make yourself as marketable as possible. But I do have some questions from the students, and I'm glad they're asking some tough ones. This first one's Derek Mitchell. He's in 10th grade, a member of our band
Mm-hmm.
here. I'm sorry, I got him wrong. He's in 11th grade. He corrected me. He's in 11th grade. He's a member of our band here at Velma Jackson. And he asked, what was the hardest part for you learning how to speak? And did you ever want to quit because it was overwhelming?
First of all, I respect the young man because he's in band. I'm a band alum. I was in concert and marching band. I learned how to play trumpet and alto sax in band. Period. So that's what made me become a music producer, composer. So did I want to quit? Yes, constantly. You're not understanding. I was raised between Brooklyn, New York, and Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm in the projects, and I'm trying to talk, and people don't want to deal with me. They don't want to eat lunch with me. They don't want to have nothing to do with me. So yes, and of course I wanted to quit. Of course, but God gave me 9 sisters. Okay, I have 9 sisters and 10 brothers. Okay, my 9 sisters were my best friends. I ate lunch every day with my 9 sisters. You understand what I'm saying? And so they pushed me to do stuff that I didn't want to push myself to do. Yes, it was hard. And being in band is even more harder because you have to learn how to take orders. You have to learn how to read music notes. You have to be in sync. You have to be on time, not just on time and being in the class, but on time when it comes to playing the instrument. You
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying? So I got to sit up here and blow a horn, and I can't even blow words out my mouth. So yes, I wanted to, but thank God I didn't.
that's awesome. I like this one. This is Jarvis Lyles. He's a senior getting ready to graduate, one of our football players here at Velma Jackson. And he asked, has autism affected the way you learn things? And has it ever affected you from getting the job that you want?
Yes, it has affected me from getting jobs that I wanted because a lot of times most employers will look at your job history. And unfortunately, at that time, I didn't have a lot of job history because of the sensory issues, because I don't like crowds, because I don't like loud noises. I can't deal with change, because of the situations I have to deal with having autism. It became a really hard situation trying to get a job. And so, yes, I lost out on a lot of good job opportunities. But again, it did not stop me because we all know once one door closes, another one opens. And sometimes you have to create your own yes kings. All of y'all in there are kings. So you have to create your own yes. Don't wait for somebody else to say yes for you. Create your yes.
Love it. I like this question. This is Derek Dozier. He's in 10th grade, one of our football and baseball players here at Velma Jackson. And he says, I have a cousin who was also a nonverbal autistic. What are some strategies that we could use to help him learn to talk?
Well, I mean, like I had a speech therapist. I had a peer speech therapist, which was my speech therapist's daughter. So I had them from 4 till about 21 years old. And again, everybody with autism is different, but if you're allowing, like my sisters forced me to do hooked on phonics, Muzzy, those type of things. I had to learn how to read, even when I didn't want to learn how to read. Sticky notes, the big white Bible with the red with the yellow lines in it. You understand what I'm saying? Learn how to read. I was content with being disabled, but my sisters said they are not going to allow me to use disability as a crutch.
Yeah.
So, so what I would say to the young man is reading activities, matching card activities, even if it's cartoons, even if he's just pointing or shaking his head or whatever type of communication, because there's different forms of communication, even with having autism. You have to start small, and patience has to be your best friend.
Yeah.
And again, speech therapy is a good way, and just constantly, repetitiously working with him in language, reading, and writing.
Awesome. And that's great to know. I know he was very interested in that. Now I got two guys asked the same question here, and this will be our last question. This is from DeQuavian Black, who's in 10th grade, plays basketball and football here and runs track at Velma Jackson, and Braylon Carter, who's a junior. And they both kind of asked the same thing. And they asked, what made you choose this path when there's other things you could have done to inspire young people?
Well, okay, so it's really quick, but I didn't want to be an autism global activist. I wanted to be a music producer, composer. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm in the studio working with, you know, people, at that time in the music industry, in the fashion world. And my good friend who has a son who has severe autism, he cannot talk at all. And she was there with me as a child, seeing me, my situation. So she felt like she wanted me to go to her church and get my testimony about how God allowed me to talk with having autism. I told her she lost her mind. I wanted to go to Walmart. She stopped on I-285 to let me out in the pouring rain, told me I could walk home, and I told her I'd go to her church because I'm not walking because I'm big. So, so, so that's how it all. I mean, it's more to the story, but that's in the short version. That's how it got started with me wanting to become an autism advocate, not an activist. I became an autism advocate because I was
Wow.
advocating for my own story. I was advocating to try to give people inspiration and hope through my own story. 2026 will be 9 years. After almost 9 years, we had an autism global activist, we had a clothing line owner, we had a music producer composer. I had 13 awards as a music producer and composer. I had 13 awards for being an autism global activist. You
Wow.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So this,
and I think there's more to come. I mean, it's amazing all the work you've been able to do.
I mean, this is coming from somebody who they deem to be retarded, non-education, not to get no education, and I would have to be in a mental institution for the rest of my life.
Wow.
So what we cannot do is allow somebody else to deem your future, to tell you in your future what you're going to become.
There you go.
Because we have to be able to push past our own limits to be able to reach for success. And for y'all young kings up there in that classroom, yes, I know it may get boring. Yes, you may feel like you can do something else. But trust me, there's nothing else that you want to be doing but getting all the education from that high school that you can get. Because when you go in this cold world and it's 34 degrees below and it's 47 degrees, it's going to stay like that if you're not properly prepared.
Wow. And that's a great segue because we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us. But a couple of things before we go. Tell us where they can find you online. You've always putting out great content for them to see. A lot of your speaking, a lot of your music, and everything. So tell us where they can find you online.
Facebook is Marcus Leonardo Boyd, Marcus L. Boyd, Marcus Boyd. Anything with autism global activists or activists. Instagram, autism global activist Marcus Boyd. TikTok, the same thing. I'm rooting for y'all Kings. I'm rooting for the basketball team out there in the high school and the football team. I'm rooting for y'all championship this year.
Awesome. Now, the last thing before we go is, like we said, it's no coincidence. I've got all young men, and I've lined up so many great male speakers to talk about why we need more successful black men in our communities because it is something that, unfortunately, we don't have enough of. Now, we've got some great ones like yourself, but it's something we can always use more of. So, as these young men are starting to make decisions for their life and starting to learn how to be professionals and learn how to be college students, learn how to be family men, why do they need to remember it is so important that we need more successful black men in our communities?
What we have to do is each one has to teach one. So if God allows you to become successful, you have to pull somebody else up by their hand and show them the same method of how you became successful. Because what we don't want is our community to die. We don't want our community to commit suicide because there's nobody else out there to help push the new generation, the next generation along the way. So when God allow you kings to become successful, because He will, go back to your homes, go back to your communities, go back to your neighborhoods, and show the next generation how you became successful. Teach them so they can do the same for somebody else.
Love it. Well, we thank you so much for fitting this in your schedule. Just such an incredible story, and I just continue to do great work. But my friend, Marcus Boyd, autism advocate, right here in Jackson, thank you so much for joining us today. I talk to you soon, buddy.
Okay.